It is very unusual to see me in this capacity. And if you're noticing I'm holding on to this desk here, just in case my knee fails, I'll have some kind of support. That was my brother that I just sang. And you know, there are people with different talents, and I'm still trying to find mine. Well, it's here. When you're given a task that you're not sure of, you bow your head, you said your prayer, and you take on the challenge. And that's what I'm doing today. Let me say thanks to Sister Dolores, my sister, as I often call her, sis. And if you guys didn't know, she has adopted me as her brother, so we're a sister in God. Thank her for that kind word of introduction. I also want to thank my pastor, Pastor Robinson, for allowing me to stand in his stead, to give a word of encouragement to you, my brothers and sisters, on this Family Ministries Day. For those of you who may not know what family ministry covers, it covers women's ministry, men's ministry, singles, and also teens, young adult, golden ages. If you realize all these groups that I have called, that's just about encompass the entire church. The song that said, we are a family of God, and that's what the church is for. I am not a pastor. I leave preaching up to Pastor Robinson and Pastor Desmond. They are good at those stuff. But surely I can stand in this desk and say a word to my family. Amen. It was April of 1979. A young man left his country of birth and migrated to the United States. He left behind his parents, siblings, friends, and all that he was accustomed to. You see, at that time, there was political upheaval and unrest, and opportunity was scarce. His job didn't pay much, and his mother had recently been fired because she was now observing the Sabbath. The family could barely make ends meet, so he decided to try starting a new life in the USA. He told his mother his plan. She supported him completely and gave him all the money she could put together. Before he left, she encouraged her son and reminded him to be faithful to his upbringing and to God. There's two things that was stressed. Be faithful to your upbringing and be faithful to God. The young man left with high hopes and many dreams. As we all know, the shores of America is full of promises. And we all come in anticipation of this great promise, right? Dreams and everything is going to be all right. We'll come, we'll get a tree, we'll shake it, and the money will fall. As soon as he landed in the U.S., however, his trouble started. First, immigration took him off the line. Then they put him in a room where he was interrogated, searched, and all his travel documents confiscated. Could you imagine? However, God was with him. What should have happened at that point, according to the immigration officer, is that the young man should have been kept in custody and placed on the next flight back to his country. However, that didn't happen. Instead, he was given permission to enter the U.S. and appear for an appointment to see an officer at a later date. Now, what should he do? There's everything that was running through this young man's mind. Where to go? He needed his documents. Hopeless, discouraged, nervous, and afraid, he decided to do what his mother taught him to do, and that is to pray. He did pray. He also solicited the help and prayer of a family he knew. That was a church family. This family also helped with his visits and telephone call to the officer responsible for the case. After a while, the documents were returned and the young man was given permission to stay in the U.S. Yes, family, we do need the prayers of those we love. After visiting several churches, the young man settled down at the Grand Concourse Church because the family that had helped him resolve his immigration issues, along with some friends, were in attendance here. They stuck together, supported each other, and that was the bond that kept the young man in church. You know, I must say that as you go through this story and you listen to the different things that happen, the greatest part is the support. How can we support each other? I believe this is a good example of how important it is to embrace others. When we show kindness to those around us, it can make a big difference in their life. You might have heard the story, The Three Musketeers, and their slogan, all for one, and one for all. Guess you guys are familiar with it. My little talk is based on the first part, all for one. This means all members of a group support each of the individual members. Sound like a perfect definition of what we as a united body of believers, a family, should be doing. How can we show that we are all for one? And there lies the challenge. In many instances, we talk about love and caring. We say it, but how often do we show it? And how do we show it? And I think that is part of the problem. We realize that when a situation occurs, when death or something bad happens, then you can see the family come out in great support. But outside of that, sometimes we wonder, where is the family? We can greet, offer a ride, share a meal, call, send a text. That's my wife's favorite thing, text. She loves to text. Oftentimes I'd say to her, why not just make a call? It takes less time. She said, you don't know. Text is easier for her. I said, I will do the phone call. In Hebrews 10, 24 to 25, we read, And let us consider one another to provoke unto love and to good works, not forsaking the assembly of ourselves together, as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much more as we see the day approaching. So Paul here is telling us to consider one another, which is where I'm going with this. Thinking about the person next to you, wondering how can you make a difference in that person's life. When that person is not here, do you think about that person? Do you wonder if that person is eating today or not eating? How are they living? What are they doing? Those are things that we should consider. Can you imagine the beautiful existence we would have if all of us show concern when one among us is in need? In the Bible, we read the story of items which were lost. One coin lost, but a search was launched. One shepherd strayed, but the shepherd didn't just replace it. He launched a major search and rescue, and then celebrated when he found it. We are a family with the question, who is my neighbor? We are familiar with the question, who is my neighbor? But it could have been, who's my brother or sister? The Good Samaritan understood the all-for-one concept. Are we responsible for each other after we separated on Sabbath? What do you think? Why were we counseled to spur one another on? All for one remind us that we all need to do for our brothers or sister as Jesus showed us. Envision us standing in a circle. In the middle of that circle is Jesus. What happened if each person moved towards Jesus? If you think of a circle, we're around the circumference. And if each person moved towards Jesus, what happened? I'm not hearing. What happened? We stand a circle and you move towards Jesus. There you go. There you go. That is my point. As you go closer to Jesus, we get closer to each other. Let us take our eyes off negative things and fix them on the one who gave his life for all. Let us move towards Jesus, move towards his way of sharing. Let every one of us place his neighbor for his good. That's Romans 15, verse 2. Moving towards his way of bringing good news. Isaiah 43:4. Thou hast been honorable, and I have loved thee. Moving towards his way of loving. John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, and we know the rest of it. Move towards his way of feeding the hungry, his way of visiting the sick. Proverbs 4:23. In all labor there's profit, but idle chat lead only to poverty. Move towards his way of lifting up the downtrodden. Psalms 32:8. I will instruct thee and teach thee in the way which thou shalt go. I will guide thee with mine eye. Move towards his way of praying for our brothers and sisters. That's John 16:33. These things I have spoken unto you, that in me ye might have peace. In the world ye shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. Let us move towards Jesus' way of keeping us focused on heaven. Hebrews 10:23-25, which I have read before, remind us again, let us hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering, for he who promised is faithful. And let us consider one another in order to stir up love and good works, exhorting one another, and so shall the more as you see the day approaching. My prayer is that we will all support another member of the church. Family, church family, we are investing together. And as we come here Sabbath after Sabbath, we must consider why we're here. Are we just here to go through a routine? Are we just here for our dress? Are we just here just to say that we're coming to church? Or we're here to encourage each other, to lift each other up, to pray with each other? If we start doing these things, we'll know that our church will be a better church. We'll know that each one of us will be valuable, will be important to the other. I am not a great public speaker, neither am I a preacher. I am simply your brother on the same spiritual journey, trying to live like Jesus and trying to encourage you, my brother and my sister, to do the same. So, there's a little song, and I'm just going to read a few words from it. And I hope it will resonate in our heart as we listen to the second part of this sermon. It said, if any little word of mine may make a dark life brighter, if any little word of mine may make a sad heart lighter, if any little love of mine may make a hard life sweeter, if any little care of mine may make a friend the fleeter. God, help me speak the helping word and sweeten it with singing and drop it in some lonely vale to set the echoes ringing.
Even when this world gets crazy, even when my friends forsake me, Lord, I know you'll never leave me. That's why I always trust in thee. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, how I trust you, how I trust you more and more. Jesus, Jesus, my precious dear friend Jesus, just to have a little faith is to trust you more. Even when my family, they don't trust you, I will trust you more and more. When the money's low, when the bills are due, I know to always trust in you. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, how I trust you, how I trust you more and more. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, my precious dear friend Jesus, just to have a little faith is to trust you more. Lord, you knew that I would fail you, but on Calvary for me you died. And Lord, I know I hurt you, but I give you my oh, please take my life. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, how I trust you, how I trust you more and more. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, my precious dear friend Jesus, just to have a little faith is to trust you more. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, how I trust you, how I trust you more and more. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, my precious dear friend Jesus, just to have a little faith is to trust you more.
Family, it's like music. Some high notes, some low notes, but always a beautiful song. Thank you, Donovan. They're still trying to figure out if you're really mine. Tous pour un pour tous, all for one for all. Now the individual members pledge to support the group. In fact, it's not only a pledge, but an actual action taken. We've seen that our brother or sister is no farther than the person sitting next to us. Within this Grand Concourse family, we have had a number of One for All members. These are individuals who make or made sacrifices so that the larger community might benefit. I'm talking about individuals like Sister Ida Crawford, who used her own money to cover camping expenses and transportation fees so that every child who wished could attend Camporee. Brother Lloyd Mitchell, who's the one person I know who can fit 20 people at least in a Toyota Corolla, because he refused to leave any child without a ride home. Brother and Sister Fraser, who saved many parents from having to explain to their child why there was no birthday or Christmas gift. Elder Joyce Wilkes, who prayed morning and evening and at noon for all the families in our church. Grandma Henry, who knows every child's birthday and achievements and gifts them accordingly. Sister Carol White and Sister Muriel Powell, who seem to sponsor any trip, any mission, or bake sale. Trevor Bunny, B-O-N-N-E-Y, who should really be Trevor, B-U-N-N-Y, for the Energizer Bunny, because he keeps on going so that children can experience camp life and have good meals. The Campbells, who found ways to build scholarships for students in our school. I'm talking about One for All in the Grand Concourse family. And I know at this point I'm in trouble because I've called names, and in so doing, other names have been left out. but forgive me. And moreover, I can't really see you that well at the moment, so I can't see your faces that well. It's even worse now. Then there's Ricardo Stokes, who I've known when either one of us didn't have to wear glasses. He has not forgotten what it was like to grow up here. So he has taken on the role of a one for all, giving and doing as if it were his only occupation. Veronica Williams, affectionately known as Ronnie, excuse the emotion, but whose name should be Ruth. Not after me, not after this Ruth, but Ruth in the Bible. Because like Ruth, she left family and religion behind and joined with the people of God, becoming a powerhouse, one for all, helping young people find their path. But it's Sabbath, it's a sermon. What does mentioning all these people have to do with this anyway? Well, it's Family Ministries Day, and we're seeking to encourage and remind our family members to follow 1 Corinthians 15, verse 58, which says, "Always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that your labor is not in vain in the Lord." Moses was a one-for-all man, enduring the humbling years in Midian so that all of God's people could be free from Egypt. Esther was a one-for-all woman, choosing to go before the king with risk of death, saying in Esther 4:16, "And so I will go to the king, which is against the law, and if I perish, I perish." David was a one-for-all person, going up against the giant Goliath. In 1 Samuel 17:32 and 37, it says, "Then David said to Saul, 'Let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine.'" Sorry. Moreover, David said, "The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear, he will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine." So, brothers and sisters, not Moses, not Esther, not David, or any of the other individuals I mentioned before with their good acts and their willingness to be one for all can compare to or take the place of the most important one, the one who came that we might have life and have it more abundantly. You know the stories well, but for reference, you can turn to Luke 15. In that chapter, we learn about a lost coin, a lost sheep, and a reckless and wasteful, that is to say, extravagant and imprudent young man, known to us as the prodigal son. But look closer, and you'll find someone else whom Timothy Keller calls the prodigal God. We've never heard that term. That's something I learned recently. Prodigal, well, it has other meanings. It also means lavish, generous, liberal, unsparing, bounteous. The God who risks himself and lavishes grace on stupid sheep, senseless coins, and rebellious sons like us. The God who loves and gives of himself beyond measure. Jesus recognized us as family, as his family, while we were a far way off, and chose to be our one for all. Salvation never starts with us. It comes through God seeking after us. So, brothers and sisters, this is good news. Let's pass this good news on to our other brothers and sisters, so they too can recognize that there's not only a prodigal son, but there is a prodigal God who comes looking for us because he is the one for all.